Hey now. We recorded that, you know.
Did you swear?
All right. No, she just commented on how I'm always late. It's 6:04. I'd like to call this meeting into session. I'd like to begin with the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment as we think about those who have gone before us. Thank you.
All those ones, not the one that's
Roll call. Trustee Downing.
Here.
Trustee Sprague. Trustee Bushner.
Here.
Trustee Ryan.
Here.
Trustee Patton.
Here.
Trustee O'Malley.
Sorry.
Also present, Attorney Gilchrist and Attorney Hoosick. And the mayor.
Yes, I am present, I think. All right, start off with a few announcements and correspondences. The first is a letter from the St. Patrick's Day Committee. On Saturday, March 17th, the village of Hoosick Falls will host the 2018 Hoosick Falls St. Patrick's Parade and Irish Festival. Excuse me. 27 years ago, local Irishman Mike Conway and T.J. Carmody wanted to find a way to keep the Irish culture and history alive in the Hoosick area and decided that a parade was the ticket. The history of St. Patrick's Day parades dates back to when Irish immigrants made their way to Hoosick Falls in the mid-1800s and ended sometime in the 1950s, and was later revived in 1991. The parade and Irish Fest have become the single largest one-day event in the town of Hoosick, with 2,000 to 3,000 visitors that day. The parade will begin at noon. That's the correct time, right? Because there was a change. Okay, it is at noon in Wood Park. What is it normally?
1.
It's 1 o'clock. So please note it's a noon start time. Pass that on. North on Main Street, John Street, Church Street, Willard Street, and south back onto Main Street to Wood Park.
So Willow.
What's that?
Willow?
No. Main, John,
Willard,
Church,
okay.
Willard, sorry.
Sorry, I was like,
I'm in my fast speaking mode because I'm reading letters. We hope you will join us this year and take part in our parade as we celebrate St. Patrick's Day in Hoosick Falls. RSVP to that guy. Do we need to make a motion to do that, or just it's already been set and we already know that? Great. In that case, it's done.
I don't know that we need to bring this up.
Mm-hmm.
What I suggested when I was talking afterwards, what's going to be going on in the park, if right after the parade, we block off, continue to keep Main Street blocked off so that there's a free flow of people coming off and on. It'll be nothing for us to block off.
That'd be in between here and down to. Okay.
Right there. We'll just put the barricades up, leave them up.
so they can get up and down Wilder.
Yeah.
All right, Marion, you're good. Harold, you're good.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, we'll let anyone get.
Kevin, is that all right?
Get in. I just thought
Sure.
that it would
All right.
be. It's
Yep.
safer.
Yep.
No, that sounds good.
Hope that we're gonna have a big crowd here. And it won't be.
That sounds good.
And it won't be for the whole night. It'll just be
Right. All right. Can we put that on an announcement somewhere? Is there an announcement on Facebook or?
There is on Facebook.
All right. Can you just add something about that? And I'm sure you have more things going out. Great. The Kiwanis Autism Walk Run. They're asking for Saturday, April 28th. It's an armory event from 5 to 7. Balloon twisty lady, photo booth, chili cook-off, magician, silent auction, face painting, and other events. That sounds cool. And a walk run from 7 p.m. on. They plan to add glow-in-the-dark items along the walking path, plus have the walkers and runners in glow-in-the-dark clothes and face paints. Possibly add lights to the trees along the walk route. We would like to stay away from Hill Road. Bob, have you heard?
I'm just wondering where.
Gail's right there.
Gail's right there.
Where's Gail?
If we would prefer to start in the park
Okay.
and then walk up and then come back down and go around, you know. But if we have to, we can start like at Bunker Hill, go up and then come down to the village limits and then back.
Okay.
Okay. It's up to you, whatever is best
I'm
for
looking
you.
at Neil because he.
We're open to suggestions.
It's gonna be dark then?
It is, but if you start at the
Well,
park,
in
we're
April.
gonna end at the park. So if a lot of people like, with kids, they would stop at the park coming back. They wouldn't go the rest of the way. But because it's a walk and a run, some people like to run further. So that's why we.
Well, I think we're gonna need to know from start to finish, only for safety reasons,
Right.
for your guys' safety.
Well, where do you want it?
Bob, is there a way we could
I don't
add
care where we go. I'm not walking it.
one of the side roads?
You can make them go up downhill road. I
Is
don't know.
there a way that we could add a side road, maybe by the golf course or
That's
by
uphill,
the
downhill.
pool, so we wouldn't have to go so far
Well, what
past
about
the
through the
Alliance
athletic
Church?
field? To go up Barton and across the athletic field and through the tennis, or around the Griffin and back down Main.
That way, it's not as on a main road.
Well, the same thing here, it's starting, I don't know, you're saying it's 7 o'clock at night?
It's a glow.
I really think we need to think about this, if we were to put them, because you're gonna have, we have the runs where some people run, some people walk, and if the walkers really, I don't wanna say it creates a problem, but it slows things up, and,
Would it make sense to go through Second Ward? I mean, it's dark.
Well, you know, what we
Some
used to
streetlights
do-
work there.
I mean, this is our 4th year doing this walk.
Heard that.
So,
Well,
That's
where
the
was the
first
walk?
time I heard
Yeah,
that.
You're saying it's dark and you should add lights.
Yeah,
that
where's
was
the
a-
walk
Second
been
Ward.
previously?
It was.
Where's
a-
it been previously?
Previously, what we would do is we'd come out of the armory, we would go down over the bridge, up around Hill, over around River Road, and most of the time you were on sidewalks until you got to River Road,
Mm-hmm.
and then River Road, and then come back, it's 2 miles, and then come back to the armory. The problem is that River Road at dark,
Yeah.
Well, that's
I mean, we're
dangerous.
gonna have a lot of glow in the stuff, like water bottles with water and lights and stuff on
The
it.
Second Ward might be up and down first, second, third, fourth. Like, just do a loop in there. You guys have a
Eh.
grid you can go up and down.
The problem is traffic control.
Yep.
You gotta control.
Yep.
Yeah, they just can't drive in the ward.
Um,
well,
What if-
if we,
Was that him?
if we do,
Yeah, exactly.
starting at the armory.
Well, even let's say you start, sure, at the
Can we,
Well, could you and Neil and I talk about this and we can finalize the parade route, or the walk route
yeah, and
for the next board
I
meeting?
know it would change
We
just a
don't
bit
have time.
because you're planning the glow in the dark, but
Until April, but we have to get, no, that's right, we can do that, yeah.
if the nighttime concern is the issue, would it? I know it would change the idea of having the glow in the dark stuff, but if we had the event starting at 4,
The problem is that is also the day of opening day for,
oh yes, which is
okay,
also on here.
alright,
Yup.
for the, Little League.
Okay.
Softball.
What are the green?
I
lights?
think we should table
The
it for
Greenway
right now
was
until
before
Bobby
that.
can
We were
discuss it
gonna go
and
just on the
we can
Greenway.
approve
Mhm.
it, the date, but not
Yeah.
not the route.
I think we'll approve the date if that's all right with you guys, and then
Okay.
we'll try to figure out what to do about the time.
Is that all right with you, Bob?
Yeah.
Sidewalks,
That we,
yes.
we just table the route, but we approve the event, Neil?
Mm-hmm.
And we're definitely,
Yeah, let's, we can debate this route all night long.
Okay, yeah,
Let's-
well,
let's not waste
we'll get a
time.
couple of minds together and plan that. So I guess I'm looking for motion to approve the date and to further
Motion.
discuss
Second.
Ben and Brian to further discuss the actual route.
Can we actually also pre-approve whatever route the chief and Neil decide on now, so they don't have to come back to approve that too?
How about the three of us get together,
Or you?
Yeah,
or do you
and
two
then
want to get together and tell me what you
we'll get
think?
together, we'll talk about it, and we'll make a report at the April meeting.
Can we just
I heard
approve-
Neil volunteered to do that, right?
But can we approve that route without the board having to, so that doesn't slow up their process?
That's fine.
Okay.
We could just come back and advise the next board meeting, this is the route.
Right, you got time, it's
Yeah.
April 28th, so we got,
Yeah, you
So
have
can
a
I
March
add that
meeting.
to the-
Make a motion to add that
Just a
into
motion
the
to add to
amend the motion.
amend the motion to also approve the route that the chief, Neil, and the mayor decide, and Gail decide is appropriate.
Need a second on the motion?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment to the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Amendment carries. And any other discussion on this
We just have to
motion?
vote for the motion.
Yep. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay.
Also, we have the Hoosick Little League Parade will be held the same day, April 28th at 10:30 in Wood Park. Do we need a motion for that? We don't need a motion for that. It's just,
We have to approve it, right?
has it already been approved, or do we have to approve
We
it?
had to approve it last year.
Well, they'll be on the village street, so I suppose they should.
All right. Let's looking for a motion then to
Motion.
approve the parade. Brian, and Karen.
Bobby and Neil are gonna have a busy day that day.
be here.
That's because they have to have that road closed.
So they parade from Wood Park down to the
Down the Little League,
field?
yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
That's the game.
Yep. Any other discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. I just got an email out to you guys, and my apologies to you. My apologies, Jamie. I forgot to get this onto the board. No, you can hit my hand. It's fine. It's fine. Thank you. I'm writing to you on behalf of Boy Scout Troop 6065. The troop is looking for permission to set up a table in the park during village events and gatherings, such as parades, band concerts, or other occasions where similar stands are set up. The table would provide folks an opportunity to purchase wood craft products made by the troop, some outdoor equipment donated to the troop, and the occasional donated baked good, not cooked by the boys, even even if they've received their cooking merit badge. All proceeds would go towards the purchase of camping gear and or help pay for the boys to attend various camp opportunities. I'll be happy to speak at the upcoming village meeting. Do you want to add anything to that, Jamie?
No, just we may have some information as far as signing up for scouting. I can't say we would be there for every single event. It's when we can grab some boys to do it. Like I said, just looking at just a collapsible table and some odds and ends. And yes, nothing cooked by the boys, I promise.
All right.
Probably excluding events where we have.
I was going to say
alcohol
this.
in the
Yep.
park.
Yep.
No, yeah, we can't
Yeah.
even go near that.
There's no badge for that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Bobby and Ben, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you, Jamie. My apologies again.
No worries, thank you. Folks.
All right, here you go. I stole one from you too, Ann. I stole that one from you, Ann. Okay, that's it. Okay, reminder that Grievance Day, this is for the current role, will be held on February 20th from 5 to 9 p.m. here in the village meeting room. This has nothing to do with reassessment stuff. This is just the standard annual Grievance Day for those of you who have an issue regarding the assessment of the tax roll. How was set forth in the property? There you go. Thank you. All right, I have a slew of updates here that I want to go over because there's an awful lot going on in the village. I'm going to start with some of the grants and projects that are breaking ground in 2018, and there's a lot that has been being worked on in behind the scenes and is going on. I'm going to start with the highway garage, and this is with MRB. It's been the actual design of the garage has had many different versions. Each one feels like an improvement on the next. Neil included the most recent in this report to you guys on the board, but I'm pretty sure he's changed it multiple times since then. Is that correct, Neil? Just once. All right. The plan is to build a new highway garage in a location near the old one on the same side, but sooner as you're coming down Waterworks Road, across from that one area where the baseball and softball folks hope to make that field in their future.
Is this where the Army used to have their the National Guard? Okay.
Inside it will have 5 bays and large doors, as well as some office space that will include a men's locker room, unisex bathroom, office space for the DPW superintendent, and a break room and training room that can either be divided or opened into one larger room. On top of all the office space, there will be an additional loft area for extra storage. We're also planning on having it set back from the road enough to have diagonally set a line of parking in between the road and the building, which will help if there are larger meetings there, as also when sports and softball and baseball are going on. They'll give them some extra parking. This will be put out to bid soon, with the groundbreaking likely to start in spring. Could even have a finished project done by the end of the summer and early fall, which is very exciting. The old highway garage will remain where it is, and proposals for engineering services, I think, no, that'll be coming in future meetings, but we have to figure that with Rich.
I've got it.
Oh, you got it? All right, thank you. Snow Street Waterline is the second project going on. This is also through MRB, with MRB. As in the last one, we're in the design phase for this new water line that will go along Snow Street. We're currently waiting for the surveyed base mapping to be done, and then the design phase will be complete. This is another grant that we'll be breaking ground on in spring, and likely should have it finished by the end of summer. We are also hoping that this plan will include a new pumping station on Rensselaer Street, which would increase the water pressure and volume to the area, which I'm pretty sure has been a problem that's been there for a long time. The third project that we're working on is the sewer project. That's not with MRB. Is that with MRB or B&L? I'm already getting confused. Sewer project. Who's the sewer project through?
MRB.
That is MRB. That's right. Throw something at me, Dave, please. This is a major project that has been in the works for nearly 2 years now, with a lot of the pre-ground breaking work taking up much of the time. This includes many easements, all of which have been attained save one. The proceedings and those proceedings have led to a court date that has been postponed to March 12th, which is the Monday before our next board meeting. This also included acquiring the property on Lyman Street from the county, which will become a new pump station. John Patterson worked on this project for over a year at the village, and Andy has been the one who's stepped in to get us over the hump. The advertisement for bids will be going out shortly. Bid packages will be available to be picked up by contractors on February 19th. The bid opening is scheduled for Thursday, March 15th at 2 p.m. with a pre-bid meeting on March 1st at 2 p.m. Both meetings will be here in the village office. This project, which was originally going to cost about $3.8 million via bonds, got some serious financial assistance from the state when we received those funds back in October of 2017 through the Clean Water Infrastructure Improvement Act. That was a $225 million statewide initiative. $44 million of that went to the capital region, and we received just under $1 million, $948,000 specifically. This lowers the overall cost of the project by nearly a quarter to about $2.8 million, which is really, really nice. When I began as mayor, this project was one of the priorities, and it had already been delayed. Former Mayor Borge explained to me a great deal of what had already happened and what still needed to happen. We were excited to finally be breaking ground on the project this spring. The final project that we hope will break ground this spring and summer is the Woodsbrook Targeted Buyout Program. We say hope because there's a lot that still has to happen for this, but at this point, this is going to be my absolute priority. Introductory letters went out in the mail today, actually. This is one of them. If you want to just pass over and take a look at that. So they should be getting them tomorrow. In fact, if I saw a couple of the residents here, I was going to give it to them. I don't think any are here right now. I'm going to be finalizing the details of the program with the state this week if everything works out. And then possibly as soon as next week, I'm going to be sitting down with the property owners and explain all the details. There's a lot that still has to happen through this process, and purchasing houses never goes as fast as anyone wants. But my priority is to allow the spring and summer season to be the time when we can work everything out and allow the property owners to relocate. Ideally, we can start looking at taking down some of the newly acquired properties this summer and fall, and use winter season and finalize the plans, and possibly even go for a grant or two with this area. I'm aware that of all the hopefullys and ideallys that I just said in there, but I really want to stress that this is a major priority after this meeting, even while balancing all the other things that are going on. We have additional grants and projects. We have the $30,000 engineering planning grant study on the landfill leachate. That's continuing with MRB. That will likely be finished in the fall of this year, likely in time to submit for one of the larger grants that would be required, that we think will be required based on the result of the study, which is likely some sort of filtration system there. The environmental planning grant for the wastewater treatment plant effluent disinfection study, also with MRB. That's where we're looking to add a UV treatment to the normal runs of the plant. We'll be starting very soon with a EFC and DEC conference call. The Woodsbrook CDBG grant, that's the $900,000 one, which was awarded back in December. This is based off of the previous work with B&L. Is still in the early phase. Our next step, which I think we have at this meeting, is to put out an RFQ to select a consultant. If we do that, then we can make a determination of who will be the consultant at our March meeting. Then we'll get the initial scope fee for services in, get a contract executed, and possibly as early as April begin field work on how to tweak the Woodsbrook up high before it gets to the village. The 2007 EPF grant with B&L, this is for the south end of the Greenway Trail, was just extended through 2018. Is that year 11 of this grant now?
Yeah.
Right now, B&L is working with the Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic.
Preservation.
Oh, I'm getting these down on the parking lot plans.
Well, it's parking lots and canoe access.
Yes.
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 Finally.
Yes, I'd love to get that one done this season too.
Yeah.
The 2015 Recreational Trails, it does, program grant with B&L for the northern end of the Greenway Trail, and which will include emergency vehicle purchase, will likely be approved for the design phase in the next month or two, with the construction phase approved for the 2018-2019 year. And the LWRP with B&L is also continuing, which includes a $5,000 land use inventory project funded by the Hudson River Valley Greenway. So those are all the grants and projects that are going on throughout everything. Do you guys have any questions before I jump on to the next?
I have a question.
Yes.
The old garage will remain where it is. Have you made any determination on how that'll be used?
Neil?
Storage.
Excess storage.
And the kind of excess storage that can, that will not be exposed to the weather, which will be really helpful right now.
We're gonna hide our millions there.
Yeah, right.
It's gonna be our money fault.
It says you're hoping the Snow Street plan will include a new pumping station. What does that depend on?
That depends on if the project can come in low enough to allow for the extra finances that would take.
Whether it fits in the existing line.
Yes, that was I think a $350,000 grant. We're optimistic, but at the same time, we're kind of also realizing how that situation has been needed to be fixed for years, decades. I don't know, a long time. So we're gonna do pretty much everything we can to get that to happen in there. Awesome. All right, on to the update on the new water testing method. And my apologies. And do you guys have the packet that I gave you guys?
The water one or
The water one? No,
water
that
one's in the mailbox.
those are. Yeah, that one, the water sampling updates. And I have a binder that I'll be passing around after I get through some of this, but I just want to read and sort of explain what's been going on over the past month and a half. Oh, no, 2 months, actually. Back in mid-December, we received some information that led us to believe that Gen X had been used as a replacement chemical to PFOA at the St. Gobain facility in McCaffrey Street. This, if true, would be of concern, as there is a large body of research that states that GAC filtration is inefficient at filtering out Gen X, and that the current method we use for testing does not include testing for Gen X or many of the other replacement chemical possibilities. With that strong concern, two things happened, all independent of each other. First, the village got in touch with Dr. Detlef Knappe. That's actually Knappe, the K is important there. Who's a really cool guy. He's a professor of civil, construction, and environmental engineering at North Carolina State University, who has a particular interest in drinking water quality and treatment, among other things. He and his team have been a big part of the investigation and testing down in North Carolina's Cape Fear region, where there is a large contamination issue with Gen X emerging from the Chemours, formerly the DuPont facility. He agreed to do the testing for us. In early January, we took multiple samples and overnighted them back to him, and he ran his tests. The results showed no Gen X anywhere, not at the wells, not at the mid-fluent, not at the end of the line, and not in the wastewater treatment plant's effluents. Additionally, it showed that all perfluorinated compounds were being properly filtered. There was no leakage in the mid-fluent or in the finished water. The sample results from those tests are going to be in the first page of your packet, and they'll be in the first section of this binder. Second, the state, hearing our concerns loud and clear, had been spending time getting the Wadsworth lab ready to test for this extended list of PFC chemicals. This had been worked on during the end of 2017, and they said that as soon as the lab was ready to take these tests, they would be out to collect samples. On January 18th, they came out and collected samples, and in early February, on the day of our normal monthly conference call, they gave the results. They too confirmed that there was no Gen X in our water, not at the well, mid-fluent, or finished waters. And while the state's detection limit for Gen X is about 31 parts per trillion, North Carolina's state's approach to the tests gets their limit down to 10 parts per trillion. They had also used this same testing method, the state, on 5 of the monitoring wells on the McCaffrey Street site. Gen X and a handful of other replacement chemical possibilities they tested for all came up non-detect. And these are also in here. We are very, very glad that both the state and a separate lab were able to do this work, see this is a priority for our community, and get us these results. And we'd like to thank New York State Department of Health, Lloyd's over there, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, and Dr. Knappe and his team at North Carolina State University for this data and this peace of mind. This leads me to jump into the update on the GAC filtration system. One of the surprises from the state's first round of these tests is that they detected for the first time a small breakthrough at the mid-fluent. And remember, the mid-fluent is kind of, let's use these, is the water that goes out of filter 1 and into filter 2. And I'll explain that more in detail shortly. Trace amounts of PFBA, not PFOA, were detected at the mid-fluent, but were then properly filtered out in the second tank. Now, before we go any further, there are a few points I want to mention. PFBA, or perfluorobutanoic acid, also sometimes called perfluorobutyric acid, I think is how you pronounce it, all right, is a C4 chain. It was only detected at 5.5 and 6 parts per trillion at the mid-fluent, and it was, again, not detected in the finished water, and the detection limit for the testing is 5 parts per trillion. PFBA has a half-life of 3 days. That's very different than PFOA's 3 years. There's only one state that has PFBA drinking water advisory level, and that's Minnesota, and their advisory level is 7,000 parts per trillion. Interestingly, PFOA was not detected at the well, which means that it's likely coming in at below detection levels, and over time, once it builds up in the first filtration tank, it begins to break through. This matches the literature we've seen about smaller chain PFC chemicals. The carbon capacity fills up sooner with the smaller PFCs than it would with PFOA or PFOS, so it would likely break through sooner and at higher levels than what it comes into the filter with. And again, this was not detected in the finished water. The summary of all the sample results is in the packet. It's the second section of the binder. After the state shared the results with me, they instantly wanted to get another round of sampling done. They were up here this past Friday the 9th, first thing in the morning, and kept the lab staffed over the weekend to have the results back to us yesterday. Those sample results are on the second set of samples in your packet and the third section of the binder. Actually, if you want to start passing this around, that's totally fine. You can start over that way if you want. Of note, all finished water continues to be non-detect of everything they can test for. PFBA was again detected at the midfluent, and at this time it was 6.76 and 6.64 parts per trillion. And an additional chemical, PFPEA, that's perfluoropentanoic acid, which is a C5 in the chain, was detected at trace amounts, 2.06 in the midfluent. It was again not detected in the finished water. So what does this all mean? First, the filtration system continues to work as planned, and second, that the lead-lag design of the two filters, one being the lead and the second one being the lag with the eventual switch, was the correct design. And third, even though our main concern with the water was PFOA, these additional compounds are a concern that we're looking at. And because of this, it has accelerated the discussion regarding the frequency of the carbon recharge, or in other words, when we change out the carbon in the first filter. The state is discussing with the village the timing and procedures on this, which means as a community, this is the first time we're going to go through the process of having a tank changed out. Here's what you guys need to know about this. And I will take some questions when I get through this, any questions that you have, and we have representatives from DEC and DOH here with us tonight. The GAC system, besides its two filtration tanks, includes a series of pipes and valves that allow you to modify the flow direction. Right now, we send the water into tank 1, we'll call it the blue tank for my little model here, where it's filtered, and then it runs through tank 2, where it is filtered again. When the time to change out tank 1 happens, the pipes and valves will be set so that the water no longer goes through tank 1, it will just filter through tank 2. Since tank 1 has been the one taking the PFCs out of the water, tank 2 is practically empty of these chemicals, and based on the fact of the first year of operation getting to where we are now, will likely take another year to fill up and need recharging. The actual change-out process lasts about 2 to 3 weeks. During that time, tank 2 will be filtering, and we'll be running tests with the state to ensure that the filtration process continues to work as normal. Once tank 1 is completely refreshed, then we'll be running the water through tank 2 first, and then into the newly prepared tank 1. At this point, we should be good for another year, hypothetically, hopefully. Tank 2 will then become the first to break through, since it will be the one that will have been the one filtering the PFCs out, and we'll need to have this change out, and we simply repeat the process. During the process, we'll be communicating to the community when it starts, how things are going, any testing results we receive, and when it's complete. It's my understanding that some of the early GAC systems only had one tank, and this two-tank design is there to make sure that even through the change out of one of the tanks, we will still have nonstop filtration, producing non-detect finished water. That's a lot of information. If you guys have any questions, ask away. Yes. And the name and the address, sorry.
Kevin Allard, 5421 State Route 7 in Falls, New York. You say you tested in the water for Gen X, and that came up, but was there any air emission testing done for Gen X?
No, not at this point.
And/or soil samples.
And that's the understanding, is that it would only get to the water if it would get through the soil to that point. So at this point, no.
Well, it's also non-detect in St. Gobain's monitoring wells and any groundwater monitoring wells as well.
But that would be.
But that's
if it shows up in the water, it's been there for a long time in order to wash through the soil, to get down, and actually get into the water table. Mm-hmm. My initial concern is the air quality and what people breathe on an everyday basis.
And getting soil samples. Now, this testing the state only became able to do earlier this year in January. They've been working on it for a couple months. I don't know how long the North Carolina lab had been doing it, but that's sort of the next, in my mind, is the next steps are, do we get soil samples somehow on the village property? Is it part of the feasibility study? Is that the right term? That's going on at McCaffrey Street, and air samples as well would make a lot of sense.
Is there any plans?
Could I actually just add though that the monitoring wells, just at least for some comfort of where we're at, and I'm not disagreeing we should do that. The monitoring wells are at different depths. So if it's very deep down or if it's close to the surface, if it is in the soil, it's very likely it would show up in one of those. More than likely, right? Even more the shallow wells, probably. Just so if it's not there, chances are it's probably not, but it doesn't hurt to look. Am I correct in stating that?
Or it just may not be there yet.
You're gonna find with Petersburg and Hoosick Falls, like it might actually be in Petersburg first because their stacks were tested for it. It is coming out, so it's already there. Like they know it's there. They haven't tested the soil that I know of, and if they have, the results aren't back yet. But I think they're kind of going to piggyback each other again.
So who has tested the stacks in Petersburg?
DEC.
DEC has tested that?
Correct.
Is DEC here?
Yep, right over there.
Okay, have you tested the stacks in Hoosick Falls?
We've got to ask our air folks to see what sampling they've done. If they've done Gen X, they have done other air emission sampling in the area. We should get that data for you as well. But we'll check and see if they sampled for Gen X yet.
And this is kind of the next natural step is to investigate these and if they've been used and for how long and how they filter. All those sort of things we're in the process of looking into. But soil, I've actually been speaking with both DEC and EPA about getting some extended soil samples anyway as part of this the study. So
when you get those results, can you put them on the village's website?
Absolutely. And I had actually meant to get all of these things on the website in time for the meeting. I didn't get to because I was getting all the stuff ready. So I'm going to email those to Rick after the meeting. I was a little busy, a few things going on. Well, that's all right.
Can I just question you this for you guys as well? You know, the GAC works. It's taking out what we needed to. I know the PFBA was a surprise in the mid, but it's a shorter chain, and I know there's some concerns with shorter chain and GAC. And I'm looking at PFNA, PFDA, PFBS. Those are all in St. Gobain's monitoring wells. They're not in ours. They're not showing up in the village water supply as of yet. What data do we have on GAC in those particular, and PFOS? I think PFOS it does move, but the other three, right? It has shown up. Those are, I believe, some of those are shorter chains. They're lower levels in the monitoring wells under the plant and in that vicinity. They're like I said, not in our well field. If those make it to our well field, what?
So I'm Lloyd from the department.
Oh yeah.
And one of the things I provided to the mayor was a graph that shows some of the absorption profile. PFNA is a longer chain.
Oh, it's a longer chain? Okay.
So, yeah, so that'll be, there's no issue there.
Okay.
But if you look at it, it's very clear, and it's, you can go on the web and Google and find this. This is basically the information I provided was from a presentation that Calgon made. So it's a Calgon authored presentation. And if you look at those absorption profiles, they're graphs than all the other PFCs.
Is that the one you showed me today?
Yeah, I would have my iPad. I'd show it.
PFBS, which we have been monitoring for all along.
Is that it? What is that on C? What chain?
PFBS is 4.
4.
Yeah, and we've been doing PFBS from the start. And then, last summer when we started getting more information about PFBA, we said to our we got to get working on it. And just, since you pointed out that our Gen X reporting limit was higher than North Carolina, our PFBA reporting limit was lower than North Carolina.
Yep.
And I think that's probably why North Carolina did not see it, but we did. So we're right around the 5-6 parts per trillion level, and that is the reporting. Right
image you sent me.
that we can see this.
Those are all
compound.
PFOA, PFOS.
We'll grab
this one is the PFB,
well, we have,
this weird one.
So we have
over time,
two
that's how the
data
leakage
points.
starts.
So in January, let me just also say this.
Yeah.
We
this is most
very
of them.
much wanted
this
to
is
do
the
the monitoring
PFB leakage.
wells on St. Gobain property because we felt it was very important to have some tie back to concentrations of PFOA were high. So we wanted to see what was in those wells. So we very much put our sampling program to make sure that we did the water system at the same time we did those monitoring wells. And
these guys
PFBA,
like out there.
in terms of coming through,
to get out there too.
I don't think any of us were happy about it. I don't think, we thought we might be not at the point where we are
People
at
can look at
now.
that on YouTube.
But based on that information that we gained from those graphs, if one was to come through, it is the PFBS.
Yeah.
The PFBS, again, doesn't seem to be an issue. So one of the other things...
PFDA, what is that?
PFDA.
No, but I also go back to PFDA has also been detected in monitoring well 3.
That's
What's
a 9?
C9?
No, that's
Or 12?
That's NA. That's a DECA. Isn't that the
DECA's.
Okay.
So I have to sit that in. Probably DECA, which is...
Probably 12.
Yeah. So I'd have to go back and look at the list to be sure. One of the problems which the mayor learned is there's multiple nomenclature. It's why chemicals are given a CAS number.
Yeah.
And really, the CAS number is the way to make sure you're talking about the same chemical. So in the information that I provided, we have the list of the 16 PFC chains and then the 5 Gen X type compounds. They're basically 2 short chains joined by an oxygen or makes an ether. So those 5 are kind of separate, and the other PFCs, the other 16 are basically chains. One of the things you'll see between our 2 sampling events, because we got the information last week that we had that breakthrough, we wanted to get sampling done very quickly to make sure that, find out whether it was an anomalous reading, whether it was true, or blah, 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 blah. So we didn't do the 5 Gen X compounds in the second sample because they weren't found anywhere, so why repeat that? And it's a whole separate analysis, and it would slow the process down. So we stayed very focused. We didn't do the monitoring wells either because that takes coordination in terms of getting access and so on. So we stayed very specific in the second sample. Somewhere between that sampling event, which was on Friday,
Yeah,
it was
I know.
Friday, thank you.
Yep.
And then we got the lab working on Saturday. We got the results back to you yesterday. Somewhere between that Friday and yesterday, it occurred to me, and I think some others simultaneously, including I think the mayor, that the GAC system has ports within each vessel. So we can see at the first 25%, 50%, 75% of the vessel. So based on that information, I coordinated with our guy, and he came out yesterday, and collected within that second vessel, so we could see where that PFBA may be within the second vessel. So
and just to clarify for other people, that means that the portion of the tank that would be spent, so to speak, yes.
So that we can gain more information there. And so we're expecting, that information back this week as well. And we also tested one point within the first filter for all 16.
Okay.
Based on the information we get from that, I'm anticipating that you probably have a desire for us to come back by next week sometime. That we'll tailor the sampling based on what that information provides us and what we need to gain. So we're trying to, as you do sampling, you want to see, what's your purpose, what information you're trying to gain. We certainly want to confirm what a PFBA is. We'll try to see where it is within that second carbon. And I think the other thing that is kind of good for us to learn as we move forward with operation and maintenance of these systems for a longer period of time is where is everything in the first filter at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we also have sort of a limitation in terms of sample number, in terms of doing batches and getting information quick. So I wasn't able to get samples for all the sampling ports on the first filter in this sampling event because it would have caused for a second batch, which would have just stay focused. I've learned many, I did a lot of white hair and a lot of lost hair over the years.
It's a good look.
When you do sampling, you want to really identify your purpose and stay focused on that. And our purpose with this one is to confirm, this last one, this third event, is to confirm the FBA levels and to also evaluate where they are in that second carbon.
Where's the binder?
Thank you for that. And actually, one other. I appreciate you jumping on. Can I ask one question? question, then I'm good. You mentioned access to St. Cobain's monitoring wells. There are several of those on village property. Are they somehow property of St. Cobain because they put them there, or can you access those even if they're on our property as the village?
It's
it's
really just because.
Yeah, especially because they're in the middle of the greenway. So.
Yeah.
Sore spot.
Do you want access to those, or?
I mean, for sampling. Because you had said there's sometimes that coordination issue. I know they're not on the plant site, but if they're on village property,
they're typically locked, so somebody has a key. So it's just another element to adding time. And I don't know if at this point, I think we got a pretty good characterization of what's at the monitoring wells. I wouldn't expect that to change drastically.
Okay.
So I don't see, given the extra time it would take to get that, I don't see that we gain a whole lot. I think we want to focus our sampling concerns on what's happening within the GAC focus.
Okay.
And I feel like as the investigation continues and those extra supplemental wells were installed, we'll be getting that sort of data eventually anyway.
Sure.
I don't know exactly the timeline on that. I don't know how that's seasonally affected, but I know that's in the works. Lorene.
Well, part of the discussion.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. Lorene, address, name, all that stuff.
Lorene at 3rd Street.
Thank you. Sorry.
Well, then part of what the village is looking into then is changing the filters out more frequently if you're finding breakthroughs.
It's part of the conversation, I think.
This kind of might happen.
I think the testing shows that, it's an effective testing methodology that we have a protocol so we can determine what's happening between the lead filter and the lag filter. We'll continue that testing and we'll continue to test and we'll see how that works and we'll develop a schedule for the breakthrough for the various compounds.
But you can also capture that by doing the different levels too, right? Before it even breaks through to know, okay.
I think
so. We might go. As the mayor mentioned, we might go another year, or it might be shorter, but we'll know that because we'll be testing that.
Yeah, and that's why we're excited to see. Well, I don't know, excited is the right word, but we're interested to see the results at the various physical heights of the tank.
So just one other clarifying thing.
Certainly.
I think this is something that, just in terms of just understanding the whole GAC, is they've actually been receiving the water from your supply wells for 13 months. It's only been operating on its own. Actually, February 7th last year was the first when it was operating on its own. But it's been receiving water for 13 months because we used the interim and the full in tandem for a while.
Right.
But it was doing all the filtering. It's been doing all the filtering for 13 months.
Yeah, and I think when we originally started, we figured that we would wait for the PFOA to start leaking at the mid-fluent and then decide on the schedule then, but this is just sort of changing the discussion about how the schedule is going to be set, but that's kind of the point of this little mini investigation. So, any other questions on anything?
But you had to get to this point at some time.
Oh yeah, that was it. I mean, that's how these systems work.
It's doing its job.
Yeah, exactly it, and that's why we
just didn't expect it to be PFBA.
Yeah, we expected PFOA because that's at the 400s where the rest of this is like below 10. All right, a few other quick updates. Blood testing data results from round 1. A few months ago, as I think I mentioned in the past, DOH came in to have a sit-down with some village officials and some community members regarding the prior data rollouts with the PFOA blood serum level. They came to the meeting ready to listen, took a bunch of ideas from our group on what they can additionally try to do with the data. They've taken those suggestions and questions back and have been working for a few months on the final data from round 1. They're in the final stages of going over that data and their materials, and then they hope to meet with the same panel to walk them through the results and get comments again. The full community rollout of that data will hopefully be coming shortly after that, likely within the next month if everything works out. The state's already committed to a second round of blood testing, and at the last meeting we confirmed that Twin Rivers would be a location within the village and people could have their blood taken for this specific testing, even if they're not patients there. As soon as those final details are all solidified, we'll also have that information out as well. And I think we're aiming for an early spring start. I feel like that's what we were going to set. In terms of the alternate water supply, as you guys know, and I've mentioned many times, DEC, through the consent order with St. Cobain and Honeywell, required the responsible party to produce a study of all potential options to supply the village with water free of PFOA and other contaminants. DEC has continued to push the responsible parties to conduct a thorough and comprehensive analysis that identifies a range of possibilities to consider and the next steps needed that this is an interim report. They will not be identifying one specific option at this time, but present to our community a full suite of options: groundwater sources, surface water sources, even possibly connecting to a municipal source, and other options. This meeting will be both a presentation of these many options, and they will sort of explain where they're at with each one, and also a chance to get feedback from the community. A final option will only be selected after the state receives our feedback as a community on which option makes the most sense, and will be incorporated into the broader remediation plan that is being developed to address the contamination in our community. The state will be meeting with myself and the town to brief us on the interim plan in the coming days, and from there I will work with the state to set a date for an upcoming public meeting to discuss the report and begin gathering our feedback on this important study. DC wants everyone to know that they are continuing to oversee the responsible parties as they advance the ongoing investigations into the nature and extent of the contamination, and developing options to remediate the sites, as well as pressing them to move quickly on the necessary next steps regarding the alternate water supply feasibility study. As soon as we have anything more specific, I will definitely get that out to you guys as fast as possible. Any questions? Yes.
Just a quick question. On there, they say they're going to give a recommendation as to what is the best site.
Eventually. Not at this first.
Not at this first step. What the metrics or the criteria was that was used to make that selection?
Good question?
Yes, sure thing. Yeah, the feasibility study itself will lay out all the different things that we looked at to evaluate each option. So you're going to see everything from the feasibility and the engineering aspects of it, the timing, the short-term impacts, long-term impacts, things like even down to the level of how much traffic there would be if we had to build something. So you'll see all that. You'll see the cost analysis, so you can look at costs. So you'll see a variety of different factors that go into evaluation of each one.
But when I ask what the metrics are, how are they going to be weighted?
As in, once all the information is out there for each of the options, how is the final decision going to be made?
No, how are the criteria to determine which is the best? You're going to have several criteria, like what you just said. How are those criteria weighted in the final decision?
The way it works is that the two things that are most important is whether it's protective of the public health, protective of the environment. So those are the two major factors that we look at. If a remedy that we're evaluating is not protective of the public health and the environment, it doesn't get considered. It comes off right away. So that's number one. It's more of a comparison rather than an absolute value. In other words, we don't give it a score, but it would be a relative ranking compared to other alternatives that are equally protected. So that's the key. You look at things that are protected. If it's not protected, it doesn't go forward.
So where would cost line up in that?
Cost is a balance, what we call a balancing criteria. So if you have two things, they had option A and option B, equally protective, provide the same level of protection for the public health. One costs a lot more than the other. We could use that as a balancing factor. But it's only used after all the protectiveness evaluations are done.
Yeah, and through each step of the process, before decisions are made, it's open for public comment. So we're going to put it out to the community and get feedback from, specific to the alternate water supply feasibility study. There'll be opportunities for public comment there on the broader remediation plan and everything else that's specific to addressing contamination on site. As those plans are developed, that goes out for public comment as well. So you get to see everything that's in there and make comments on it and help us direct the company moving forward.
You're going to have several bites at this. You're going to have the first bite on this little piece, the intro piece on the alternate water study. And then when the larger investigations, while the plant studies come back, and there's a larger remedy selection process that we put together in a larger feasibility study, you'll have another shot at not only the alternate water supply, but also the individual plant site remedies. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity to provide input. And we really want your input. I mean, we don't want to advance a remedy that's completely unacceptable to the community. I mean, understanding that what we come up with has to be protected.
I know they've been working with one well. Have they decided to further the scope of testing for other sources for groundwater?
Part of this interim feasibility study for the alt water supply is additional groundwater studies to supplement what the DEC already did south of town here. So the companies are going to have to go out and look for additional groundwater resources.
And to reiterate that, they very definitely want comments because they've taken comments from us and they've run with them, and that's had an influence on what they've been looking into, and that's I think the way that it's going to continue. So, any other questions on that? Okay, a couple more quick updates. Thanks for bearing with me. I have a FEMA update, and it's not good. FEMA officially responded to the appeal by saying that they have upheld their decision. If I want to read this letter, the second paragraph, after a thorough review of all of the information contained in your initial request and appeal, we reaffirm our original findings that the damage identified in your request resulted from separate and distinct events, none of which were of the severity and magnitude as to be beyond the capabilities of the state-affected local governments and voluntary agencies. Therefore, I must inform you that your appeal for a major disaster declaration is denied. So that is our federal government saying that one storm front that goes through the state over multiple days is a series of different events.
2 different events?
Multiple different events.
Oh, there's a 23-page version of it. No, there is, right?
This is the original appeal. The one that the governor submitted was like a 5-page letter and 15 or 16 pages of data.
Yeah.
The original letter saying no was this, and the appeal response was that. But
neither one of them are worth the paper they're written on.
Again, it floors me that the federal government is telling us that a band of storms created a bunch of different events, and they're not related in any way.
On the same day.
Whatever. It's just so.
But they'll give us a free trailer.
Alright. With that in mind, I've been in touch with Ray Davis from the county today. The Small Business Association is going to make available the small business loan. They just got the legislation or whatever it was signed. I don't know if it's legislation or whatever document they had to sign. Got it signed today. What these are going to be loans. So if you had damage from the flood, you can pursue small business loans. They are loans, which means you have to pay them back at some point. They typically have low rates, and because they're loans, you have to qualify for that. But because FEMA recently said thanks but no thanks, they've been working to make this available, and they're hoping to be up here next week. We have to get a facility for them. They're thinking about the 20th, the 21st, and 22nd, which is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week, as well as Saturday. For a few hours in there. I have to touch base with them to see if this area would work or the Army will work. And once we have that, we'll get that information out there to everybody.
I recommend we do it at Woodsbrook.
In the FEMA trailer.
Yeah.
No, these guys are helping us. It's not a FEMA meeting. No, this is a different entity. They typically will do a shift like a 9 to 6, but I was thinking there should be at least one like 11 to 8, so there's an extended evening hours for people who have to work through there.
When you say a business loan, but so that's only for
businesses or residents who had flood damage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it can be for residents as well.
That's all.
Yes.
Just as a sidebar, at least for the business end of it, and I know we, as an outreach to show we are paying attention to our businesses and Hoosick Falls. Not that I want to, don't kill me, Ann. But would it make sense for the village to send a letter to any businesses that could have suffered damage to let them know about this and the date?
That's why I don't want Ann to kill you. I get it.
But I think just proactively letting them know, hey, this is something available. They're going to be in town this date. Just actually send them a letter in the mail as a gesture of.
Don't we have the list of those people that were affected? Didn't they?
Yeah, we do. We got that when
they had to sign up if they had
when the state was gathering damage. So I have a list, and that extends into the town too.
But if you heard from any other businesses that may not have been on the list, or we might have overlooked, just to make sure we cover all businesses. I mean, we talk about economic development here. We should probably let our businesses know we are trying to help them any way we can.
Yeah, I have heard from another business, the Bagel and Brew.
So that's what I mean, just to make sure maybe we just reach out to any business that could have been impacted.
Yep, that's a good idea. And I can touch base with Mark from the town to see about that. The SBA office of it's a sign the SBA declaration, Rensselaer County. I just got an email on this like 2 hours ago, but I'll scan this and pass on if there's any additional information here. So I'll scan through that in a later point. Yeah, and I can send it to you guys as well, certainly. Any other questions on FEMA? Beside to FEMA? 2 more things that weren't on this list, but they're short. I did want to explain real quickly, take a moment to expound, I guess, upon something that happens on a normal basis, which people aren't even aware of. The village and Hoosick Falls Central School have a long-standing relationship of sharing services, and this was established well before I got here. When a need comes up, the school and the village put their heads together, come up with a solution, make things happen. We had this happen recently with the recent snowstorms, and there were some concerns that certain sidewalks in the village were not being plowed in time, so the students waiting at the bus would be waiting on a side road, which doesn't even sound like the safest thing you've ever heard when you say it out loud like that. For the last storm, the school and the village came up with a plan to get some of the sidewalks cleared, and it worked perfectly. I even was noticing on the last delay that we had a bunch of sidewalks cleared that normally aren't able to be clear in time. So thanks to Neil Stoll and his crew, thanks to Paul Baker, Superintendent of Building and Grounds over Central, for continuing to work together for the students and for the community. We may not have any particular documents regarding shared services, but this is something that we've been doing for a long time, even before shared services became a catchphrase. And the final one, which just became official earlier today, is that over at Hoosick Falls Central School, we have a student we had a team who won the bowling section, and the team had a spot, had a very slim chance of getting in to represent, to go to states as a team, which means they would have had to have the highest pin total for 6 games for 5 players or 6 players, is it? 5 for all of the teams from B schools down. They narrowly missed it by 100 and something pins? By 99 pins, another team beat us. But AJ here, who not only is a great kid and a band student, and the son of our water treatment operator, AJ scored the highest 6-game series in our league championship, and his series was high enough to go to states. So AJ, congratulations. Well done. Awesome. So well done. I have so many bowlers in band, so I love talking about it. For whatever reason. And also, anonymous tip, keep your eyes on the boys basketball team, because man, are they good. Whew. All right.
Come on, no shaking AJ's hand because he needs.
Only shake his left hand, right?
Fist bump with the left hand, right? Yeah, that's it.
All right. So again, we've had a lot of questions, a lot of updates. Thank you for bearing with. At this point, I want to move to the people to be heard. Would anyone like to speak tonight? So we'll start with Kevin and then go back there. Thank you.
At next month's meeting, could you provide an update on the VOCs in John Street?
Yes, I will do that. Thank you. Email that to myself right now.
Yeah, we haven't had them.
I have spoken with a couple residents who've been reporting that they've had some action there. That the companies have come in and done things in the basement when it warranted that, but I'll get a more official information and some details to you. Yeah, thank you. VOCs on John Street, because we haven't gotten any data in a while on that. And that data will go in the repository where all that stuff is available for anyone who wants it. Yeah, and yes, and again for the record.
Terry McGuire, multiple addresses in the village as well as in the town. Reviewing the issue at 45 Wilder Avenue parking, which you were supposed to call me and didn't.
I didn't, and that's in my wallet too. Two, my apologies on that. Thank you.
Own a business on Elm Street and have been having quite an issue with parking in front of my business. And I spoke to Neil, and he suggested that I request in front of my building parking for business only with 2 signs. Is that something we could look at?
What's the normal policy on that?
You can do something with time limit, like certain business hours.
Well, the people that I'm having trouble with are neighbors, to which I've spoken to the landlord, and he has provided them a very large off-street parking lot, to which they are too lazy to use because they have to walk around
the building.
to the front of the building.
Where's the address of your business?
53 Elm Street.
All right.
That's crazy.
And here's the thing: if they would move in the morning, I would have no trouble. And I've never had trouble with any of his other tenants.
Okay.
And since it's a business, I feel I should be able to have at least 2 parking spaces in front.
What hours do you want?
Yeah.
Well, I work until 7, 3 nights a week. So I mean.
How about 7 a to 7 p.m. weekdays?
Yeah, perfect.
I mean, do you do weekends too?
Saturday.
So what about Monday through Saturday?
Sure. Tuesday through Saturday.
Tuesday through Saturday. All right.
Is that all right now? Do we need to do a motion on that to make that, or do we just basically just go do that?
I would say for tonight, make a motion.
Okay.
I do want to check on signage on village streets.
Okay.
Subject to reviewing that again next month if need be, but for at least tonight, let's make a motion on the record.
Okay.
For the signage.
So the motion will be to create signage specific to the business on 53 Elm Street to require parking at certain hours based on business operation.
Would it be like 2-hour parking between hour X and Y, basically? Is that?
Is 2 hours sufficient, Terry?
Yeah.
Most of my people are in and out in 2 hours.
That's, I didn't know.
But the other
Because
piece
we do that
is they can
downtown,
park there
so-
for 2 hours and then move, so it needs to be parking for business only.
Yeah.
And we should also
Yeah, that's-
look at some of the other businesses in the parking
But don't
situation
forget,
that they
they
have.
have been provided off-street parking by the
Right,
landlord as
right,
well.
right.
Or can we just throw a meter there and her customers get a token that lets them sit?
I could go out with a broom too, but that doesn't usually work too well.
The chief's right behind you.
Is that something that
That's
if
okay.
we put into place that then Bob can get involved with if they're parking
Oh, trust
in
me,
those
I'll-
hours?
Oh yeah, that means
right?
it's an
Is that
important.
right?
If the
Once-
signs
once
are up,
that's-
then you have the
yeah.
authority to enforce as
Well,
needed.
even before then.
Well, you would need a local
Well,
law
I
for
talked to the
establishment.
guy and he's,
Yep.
I actually heard him
Yep.
speak to
Business zone parking?
and then they don't.
Landlords, we'll look at that.
Okay.
Once we get enforcement, then we're gonna
Business.
wanna make sure we have a village.
Okay.
Actually, that would, with that said, that would actually be something we could apply if business zone basically, whereas anywhere in the village, if there is an area where somebody has a business, we could also help them out in the same manner.
We could, and then
Based on
that's-
zoning.
That's why he wants to
Local law,
We're gonna
yep.
wanna look at.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That makes sense.
It's called Terry's Law.
Yeah.
I just want to check with Mark City. I gave him the entire history of the parking up in Fourth Ward, and how it started and where it went. Back when I was on the board, we did that.
Okay.
Put the parking on one side of the street versus one.
Is that the
So it goes back that.
is that 91, 92 time frame?
Yeah.
Because I've seen that one that talks about the parking, and one of the things that
Call me about Wilder Avenue, right?
Is Wilder fourth?
What's that?
Or third?
Wilder
Is this
Avenue.
fourth?
yes,
It
and
depends which
I'm gonna
side.
Yeah, it
give you my
depends- it's the
email
dividing
address,
line,
and you
right?
start
Probably.
bugging me on email so I don't forget,
It's the
please.
dividing line, right? So you're third ward, the other side's fourth. Or sorry,
That's
second,
fourth.
right? Third and fourth?
Yeah, it depends which side of Wilder Avenue is
Yeah.
third or fourth.
Yeah. So we haven't
I'm fourth.
Right. The other side street's third.
we haven't made a motion yet, but I'm looking for a motion
Motion.
to. Well, I have to say it before you
said
say
it already.
All right, whatever I said before. It's just basically looking at the signs and setting up the business
And
hours.
discussing the possible local law.
Okay.
Correct.
Second.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Karen.
and Karen second that.
Thank you, Karen.
Ben very much made that motion. Well done, Ben. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And
Thank you.
mayor@hfvillage.org. Email me and bug me, please. Never bugging because I meant to do it and I forgot. My apologies. Anyone else for people to be heard?
He's off next week.
Okay. Dude, I know, and my schedule's already full, alright? Come on now. Alright. Do we have a
was for
treasurer's
you.
report tonight?
No,
No
I
treasurer's report
didn't
tonight?
see it. No.
Okay. She's been busy doing it. Oh,
Yeah, I
oh my
knew that.
gosh. Yeah. Okay. Minutes. We were sent the minutes for the December meeting, the January 9th regular meeting, and I think also the special meeting minutes. Is that correct?
I didn't put the special in there, there's like 5, emergency.
Okay. So you only
I'll
want
keep
us
that
to.
Just
Okay.
December, January.
December and January.
Motion.
Right.
All right. Motion to approve one or both. Both the
December and
December
January.
meeting, regular meeting.
I'd rather have you do it separate because I'm going to abstain from the January one.
Oh, right.
Okay.
so
Oh, that's
we're
fine.
here,
All right.
Because I wasn't here.
Can you rescind your motion?
Yeah.
I rescind my motion.
Can you-
Patton.
Try again.
Motion to approve December meeting minutes.
Okay.
Second.
Second, Karen. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Oh, I'll do
Motion
abstentions.
to approve January meeting minutes.
Motion by Kevin, because yours was too unenthusiastic, and Karen had the second.
What's happening?
I don't.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I'm going to abstain, please.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, please report.
Okay, I'll make it quick. 2000, or for the month of January, we had 92 calls, a total of 10 arrests. They range from aggravated and illicit operation, continued possession of controlled substance, a bench warrant, DWI, assault, and 1 probation violation. Just some of the highlights I wanted to talk about is just to go back on your conversation that we had with the schools, Mayor.
What? I'm sorry.
Your conversation that we had with the school, we have to review the contract that we have with the school between the police department and the school.
Between the police and the school.
We have to review that for a few things.
Okay.
The most recent one is there was a drill set up by outside agencies with the school. We were the only ones to show up.
None of the outside agencies
Not a
came.
problem,
Yeah.
But it's a big responsibility on us,
Mhm.
and I would like to have that reviewed so that we're covered.
Okay.
Our lawyer reviews it. We're covered insurance-wise. We're going to respond. God forbid if there's a problem.
Absolutely.
But another agency put it together, and I'm not criticizing that. They must have been busy that day. The school went into the drill, and our police officer shows up there, which is fine.
Well, it is fine.
That was pretty surprising
It's
for the
not.
school, I can tell you
We're
that.
involved with this more. We need to really start looking.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
above and
You
beyond.
set up a drill that you can't make it to? That's a heck of a drill.
Right, exactly. And if
Different kind of drill.
Well, the
Yeah.
kids did well. They were fine.
But if
The adults, however.
God
Yeah.
forbid if it's a crisis, we're going to be taking action, and I want to make
Yep.
sure that we're covered.
Yep.
For any action
All
that we're taking. So, and we may want to extend that and reach out to Hoosick School too, because they also have requested us to assist
Mhm.
at different times. So
Okay.
it's something we need to look at.
I think that's a great idea. So I'm all about that.
Any word from the county about the 15,000 dispatch?
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
I was getting to that. We had a meeting with. I
That's
met
the
with
chief
Scott
story.
DWI. We've got the contract to be signed for a DWI grant.
Yep, it's on here.
They're kind of pushing me for that, so if I can get that signed tonight, I'll hand deliver that to them tomorrow.
All right.
We're also meeting with them for additional funding for additional patrols for DWI, St. Patrick's Day, 4th of July, et cetera, et cetera. So we're looking at some additional funding there. I'm also looking at some additional funding that maybe the town can access as well for DWI. I have a meeting scheduled with the county executive to speak about the additional $14,000 that they
will pay for 911.
That we've been paying for 911. I had a preliminary conversation with him. Obviously, he wasn't in office during that time. I've expressed to him that we have stopped payment. He didn't seem all that upset about. I think he understands. So we'll be having a meeting. So hopefully we can get back to that. As of right now, we're not paying.
Good.
Also, I've sent correspondence to Senator Marchione requesting any type of memorandum money or any additional funding for any needs that we may have in the police department.
Okay.
Stressed in our letter that based on some of the issues that have occurred here in the past year, that we are, have a challenge on our hands. And the number of calls that we've done last year was an increase. And also, my conversation with the county executive is that we're being more and more asked to go outside the village to assist or at least handle calls because of the response time. And again, I'm not criticizing the sheriff or state police, but their response time up here.
Right.
If it's an emergency
Well, at the end of the
situation,
county.
people are screaming for help.
Yep.
Well, you're going to be the first
There
one
you
to
go.
respond.
Yep.
So we're trying to put
Yep.
together a game plan as to how we can address that. And I will assure the village board there is no additional cost to the police department's budget on any of this. Like anything else, it costs money, and that's been expressed. So hopefully things are going to get worked out.
All right.
And the only other thing is
You're appointing
the appointment
Ronnie.
of an officer. I don't mean to keep on coming back, but surprisingly I get informed that we're losing another officer, Officer McDonald. Again, it's only his time. He's moved further away from, he's over in Colony now, and his commitment to his family and his job in Troy. So he's not able to give us the time. So this officer here was a full-time officer with us at one time. We sent him to basic school. He stayed with us for like 3 years. He's moved to Rutland, Vermont. He's an investigator for them, and now he's moved just outside of North Hoosick. So he's going to be available, and he's indicated that he can work on his weekends here. So that's why I'm asking to relook at him for. We're going to have to go through the process, but basically just reappoint him again as a part-time officer.
Okay.
I don't know if we can deal with another Ash.
Well, speaking of which, Justin, who's been handling Troy PD, one of our officers here, is being assigned to a task force on drugs, and his services are being provided to us here at no cost. I know the mayor, and I'm not going to get into details, but we worked from 10 o'clock yesterday morning to 10 o'clock last night. We were from the village. We ended up in Vermont last night on an investigation that originated here in the village. So, and I'm not going to go into details on this for obvious reasons, but we're getting busier and busier with some other activities that are going on, and we're stepping on it quick. But I need help.
I guess I'm looking for a motion to
Motion.
hire.
Second.
Oh, that was tough.
We're gonna get to it next time, right?
Bobby. I think Ben's closer to Bobby. Sorry, Brian, you're out of it again.
You know,
Any discussion?
I'm not rescinding my next motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you,
Motion carries.
Chief.
Anything else, Chief? All right, thank you. I guess that said no. He's all set. Code enforcement officer. He's been out for over a week with some
We didn't hire. We didn't accept.
surgery things. So we'll just So he's.
That's true.
Yeah,
So he will hopefully be back soon. Oh, we have to have a motion to accept the police report.
No.
Motion.
Yes. Second.
Ben, second. Brian. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you. Code enforcement report. We don't have one tonight.
Oh yeah, we did.
Do we have one? We have
Yes,
some.
I think that's
Hold
right.
on a
Oh,
minute.
you got a big report.
Oh, here it is. Sorry, my apologies. He's not here.
I read each one.
No, he's.
I was tormenting while he was typing it up.
44 active permits, 34 various inspections, 26 open complaints, 56 closed complaints, 138 total active complaints, fire calls 3, pre-tenant inspections 5, biannual inspections 18. And there are 7 cases in village court as of January 31st, 2018. And there are 16 properties that are red tagged as uninhabitable as of January 31st, and 4 unsafe structures.
He also mentioned he's today, especially being out a little bit, following up and inspecting annual inspections, apartments, rentals.
Yeah. Thank you.
I make a motion we accept the building inspector's report as presented.
Second.
Second, Ben. Bobby and Ben. Any further discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Accepted. Thank you. When you talk like Mark, you have to go deeper and lower.
I'll see what I can do.
That sounds good. All right, clerk's report. Ann.
Oh. I've been entering utility payments, bringing in payments and entering in the computer. Also met with 2 members of the planning board and village attorney, Oak Mitsui and J.C. Tracker, about zoning issues. I did contact about that overlay that we want to see. It's kind of going to be a long, drawn-out process, I think.
Wait for the.
And I don't know what else I've done. I don't have a clue.
And how many properties sold?
I don't know.
You know, okay.
I haven't had time.
It has been a crazy month.
Okay.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
You gotta deal with me.
So that's what I've done.
All right. Looking for motion to accept the clerk's report.
Motion.
Karen.
Second.
Second, Brian. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you. Community service report. I have that here somewhere. Completed 105 hours for the month of January. Projects included, but are not limited to: weekly cleaning of the town of Hoosick office space, detailed police cars, cleaned water plant, cleaned highway equipment, and cleaned Hoosick Falls firehouse. They also spent a bunch of time downstairs in our basement when we got the file cabinets and counter from Hoosick Falls Central when they replaced their old ones in the main office with a new one. We spent a lot of time working on the room downstairs where the computer stuff is stored and some of their decoration stuff, and the cabinets and counter are now in there, and it will likely become another space for us to file things as we start to go through all the plentiful boxes we have and file them. So, and if you guys want to come down and look, it looks pretty sweet. Yeah, it's amazing. So, thank you for them. Looking for a motion to accept the community service report.
Motion.
Ben.
Second,
Brian. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Committee reports. Bob? Okay. Karen? Brian?
Just real quick for rescheduling Hoosick Rising meeting. The first date didn't work out. The other date we went with is now the grievance night. So we're whoopsie doodle. So people can actually know, we'll reschedule. Kevin, we agreed Wednesday the 21st, correct? A week from tomorrow. Location, we wanted to. I know Kevin likes, and I agree, having it at a business. I'll talk to Mike and see if that's. And then we'll send out the e-blast to all the people signed up for that. Does that sound good? Yeah. All right, that's all I got.
All right, thank you, Brian. Bobby?
Just a few things from Neil. Just I did notice a couple of Christmas trees around town, and Christmas tree pickup time is over. So you have to take them to the village transfer station. But
I think some snowbanks melted and they reappeared.
I'm
not kidding. I think that.
Maybe.
No, I'm not joking. I think that I'm actually serious.
But if someone doesn't have a pickup truck and they need to have it brought to the transfer station, I have a pickup truck and I can gladly do that. That's
you want to get mine?
Thank you, Bobby.
Yeah.
I have a truck.
My number's in the book.
Stop it.
In the book? In the what?
I will do that for anybody if they need to.
It's a phone book. You open it up and you look. Anyway. All right.
Dan uses it.
Thank you, Bobby.
Yep.
Anything else?
I don't think so. Well, Neil's spending time with the MRB and discussing the new highway garage.
Yep.
And Neil, what's that? Oh, right. Oh,
yep.
That's on the back page. Yes. Yeah.
What's
So
that?
we need to. Neil wants to request to rent an excavator for a couple of months to do prep work for the new garage, and we can also use it for other projects where necessary, and it would come off the cost of the machine when we purchased it. And we have monies set aside for that.
That's one of the two SAM grants we got from former Assemblyman McLaughlin.
Right.
That we're going to put towards that, and any excess money would probably come from the CHIPS program, right? All right.
Are we leasing a sweeper this spring?
Yeah, coming May 7th.
Nice.
There you go.
May 7th, June 7th. You gonna run it?
Are you gonna? We have to do that next month, right?
Wow.
We have to have approval, right, for that?
It's already approved in the budget.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
We just have to remind people, right?
Well, for when we do the street
do it,
sweep.
yeah.
So do we need a motion for this request to rent the excavator, or can Neil do that? I think all the money's in.
Well, I think based on our spending policies, we do need a motion to. Well, is it in the budget?
Not the excavator.
I say we should do it then, just as a.
Correct.
Yeah. Just in case. All right.
So I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Bobby, Ben, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right.
How
Carries.
long are you gonna have the excavator for?
Probably a couple months.
2 to 3 months.
Hopefully by then we can.
Hopefully,
process of purchasing it.
Yeah. It all depends on how fast the state moves.
Getting the money. Yeah.
Is what it is. We'll find out soon enough.
And that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Ben.
I'd like to send Jim away in May, but we'll do that under new business.
What?
I'd like to send him away. He wants to go somewhere, and we want.
Oh, okay. I thought they were getting rid of him. Like, no.
We do have an issue though with.
It's coming up in the agenda. Your
I
training.
didn't know the building inspector wasn't here, but he knows what's going on. The banks are not calling us for every house they take, and people just moving out of houses.
Oh.
But we've had 5 or 6 broken lines that we had to go on weekends to shut water off. And thanks to Neil, he's been a big help digging the grounds up to find these valves. But this is getting ridiculous with the banks.
It is.
All right. I'll be sending them a letter. Getting them to call.
Half of the time,
Well,
we don't even know
that's
who the
another
banks
thing
are.
is
that's the
trying
problem.
to figure
Right,
out
you don't know.
who to call about it.
Billing for time and service.
We are. I am billing them for our time stuff. Like the last time we had the excavator, we added under the backhoe, we added that time in. Well, we got to do something. I mean, I walked into 2 houses you couldn't even walk in because the ice was a foot thick. It's getting ridiculous. And I'm sorry I didn't get back to you, but I'm not getting
No, that's fine.
I apologize.
All right.
I'm good.
All right.
Yeah, once I send him away, I'm good.
We'll send you away shortly in one of the next motions. Kevin.
Last year we did summer concerts in the park, and try to do it again this year. 3 different ones. One in June with the Hill Hollow Band. One July 28th with the Blues for Breakfast Band, and August 18th with the West Side Drive Band.
Give me those one more time, please.
The same dates?
Yeah, dates and
June
groups.
30th, July 28th, and August 18th.
All right, thank you. That's great.
It cost about $4,000, so if anybody wants to be a sponsor of the event, we
Brian?
gladly accept any
Oh,
donations.
yeah. I'll go down to the money vault in the
So that's $4,000 combined
for all three.
Okay. And who's to be on the 18th of August, you said?
The West Side Drive Band has a couple of local people in it. Sherry or
Chrissy Fowler.
Oh, Chrissy, right. Oh, yeah, right.
Great.
Okay.
Great.
Last year we raised all the money privately, so hopefully we can do that again. That's it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right, moving on to old business. I'm looking for a motion to authorize myself, Mayor, to sign a proposal from Barton and LaJudas for grant administration.
Motion.
Looking for a second.
Second.
Discussion. Brian, can you explain this a little bit more?
Nope.
All right, fine.
It's for B&L takes care of. We have a what's the right cornucopia, horn of plenty of grants.
Yeah.
And managing them, they all have different reports that need to be filed. Some have to do with, there's just a lot of requirements and files and updates that have to be done. Some are related to the greenways, some are related to the riverfront development, others are related to the project that'll be coming with the Woodsbrook update. So for the sake of the sanity of our incredible office staff, B&L has been taking care of managing these grants for us in terms of all the paperwork, all the updates. What's that?
As I said, your kid's not what I said, but he's right.
No, it's true. Yeah, so it's a lot of work. There's a lot of repetitiveness over it. So this is just continuing to pay them to do that, so it doesn't land back in our lap. But also, we want to make sure we do everything right and correct and well. And part of that is making sure that these are all kept.
Yep. This would be for $5,000 at their normal billing rate. Would be monthly based on time and expense completed as of the date indicated in the invoice. And if I'm correct, a lot of this will come actually out of the grant programs that have administrative services built in.
Yeah, so a lot of the grants have this money built in already, and it's just
really
a matter of
all of them.
I think all and some of the smaller ones it might not be worth it, but they're really tiny. So
any further discussion or questions? We do have the motion already, so all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries. Thank you. There you go. New business. As Ben said, we're looking to send Jim away. I'm looking for a motion to allow Jim Hurlbert to attend certification training sponsored by the Rural Water Association on May 21st through May 23rd.
Motion.
Second.
Ben and Brian, any discussion? You want to talk?
I'll have the cost for you guys for next meeting, but it is a budget item that we budget every year.
Okay.
Let's see some photos of you actually at the class.
Kevin, it's on the beach.
And where's that
It's on the beach, so you might want to resend that.
Yeah.
No bowling balls and no golf clubs.
Bahama has water too. It's
Yeah, why
fine.
can't they send you to, like Saranac Lake or Salem or something like that?
Oh, Turning Stone. Oh, this better be a tight budget.
All right. We have the motion. Any other discussion? Any other jokes? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Split proceeds, split winning proceeds. All right. I'm looking for a motion to appoint Judy Vandekar, is it Sandra or Chandra? Sandra Sargood and Tony Hayes as election inspectors for the March 20th village election to be held at 24 Main Street between the hours of noon and 9 p.m.
Motion.
Brian, for a second.
Second.
I'll give that one to Karen over there. Sorry. That's all right. Any discussion on this? We have 4 people running. As we learned in last meeting, Bob, Downing, and Karen are not running again, so their last official meeting is next month. All right, we'll bring hats.
Let's try to squeeze in a few emergency meetings before then, just to get a few more hours worth out of you.
Hey Brian, bite your tongue.
Yeah. Sorry.
Ben is running. He apparently wants 2 more years of punishment from us.
Yes.
And additionally, running are
Emily
Greg Pine, Emily Marpy back there, and Vanessa Lewis. Is that the 4?
Yep.
Okay. So at this point, I'm looking for a motion for appointing those folks for the election.
Brian, Karen.
We already did it.
Oh, we did it. I'm looking for a vote. Any other discussion or questions on that?
No.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
heard you said 4.
4 people running for 3
seats.
spots.
Yes.
Yes, that's
Craig
correct.
Pine, Ben, Emily Murphy, Vanessa Lewis, and
Craig Pine.
Craig Pine.
Craig Pine. Yep. So.
So next meeting could be my last as well.
Oh.
But we're not.
I think that one.
It could be.
No?
Well, Mr.
I mean,
Mr. Optimistic.
Could be our last meeting. I'm just
Realist.
saying. I'm just trying to be real.
Realist.
But you won't know that
Yep.
anymore.
No, we
No.
won't.
That's true.
Won't.
That's true.
We'll
All
know
right.
by April though.
Looking for a motion to authorize myself, Mayor Allen, to sign the 2018 Rensselaer County DWI agreements.
Motion.
Second.
Ben and Bobby. Do I need to read any of this?
No.
Great.
Oh, you did.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Haven't signed it yet. All right. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Who was
Motion carries. What's
Who
that? That was Bobby and Ben and Brian, I think.
No,
No, it was me.
Oh, it was Ben and Brian.
Ben and Bobby.
Me.
Ben.
Try and stay with us here.
We need more people with
Why is it always
B's
my
on the
fault?
board. Apparently,
Why is it always my
it was
fault?
whatever they
Yeah,
said.
got
Who
a
was
lot
it?
of
Bobby
B's
and
Ben, me,
Oh.
and then all of
Ben
them.
and then
You
Bobby.
got it.
Did we vote on this yet?
Yeah,
we
I'm
did.
already lost. All right. Apparently the meeting's gone too long for my brain. Okay. Looking to have a discussion related to the UPS EU police grievance regarding the
Wait,
contracts.
the
Hang
MRB
one sec.
proposal?
Did I skip something?
Yeah, you don't have it on your notes.
Don't have it
on yours, sir.
Oh
MRB
man,
highway
I'm
proposal.
sorry. With permission of the board, which apparently everyone has knowledge of this except me, we have an MRB highway proposal that we wanted to put into this. Is this the one for engineering services?
Yes.
Okay, this is a proposal for engineering services related to the proposed new highway garage facility. So I guess I'm looking for a motion for that. Or is this for me to sign it? Something. So looking for a motion to sign off on the request for engineering services. Okay. All right. Second.
Second.
All right. Bobby Ryan got that. Any further discussion?
Nope.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I will check off that thing I didn't have on my list. Thank you. Okay, discussion related to the police grievance. Now, a couple things to note of this, and I've sent you guys all of the documents pertaining to this. In terms of, and we did a little bit of research on this with Andy, in terms of the legalities of an open meetings law, certain things you just are prohibited from discussing in public meeting, particular individuals and things like that, of that nature. But since this grievance is sort of a class action grievance related to interpretation of the contracts.
And relating to all employees.
And relating to all employees, okay.
Not one individual, right?
Right. That means that we discuss this here. Now, the first step was they submitted the grievance to the police chief. The police chief denied it. They have appealed now to the board, and that goes to the next meeting, which is now. As we discuss this and you guys share your thoughts on it, I will formalize the response to it with our labor attorney looking over that, and you guys getting your comments in on it, and then we have a responsibility according to the contract to send it back to the union rep within 7 days of this meeting. So that'll be happening this week or early next week while I'm on break. You guys want to start?
Sure.
Start?
I will.
Go for it.
Well, you're going to explain the background, correct? Of what it is?
Certainly. There's a section of the contract specific to longevity, and it reads as follows. All members of the police department having 5 or more years of service with the village police department shall receive a longevity increment in accordance with the following schedule. Years of service and amounts. 5 is $500, 10, $1,000, 15, $1,500, and 20, $2,000, with an asterisk saying these are non-cumulative. 2, for the purpose of longevity, years of service will be defined as having worked at least 10 days in a fiscal year commencing from initial date of hire. 3, to be eligible for longevity pay, the employee must complete 520 hours of work in each fiscal year for the prior 2 consecutive years. And 4, longevity pay will be paid in the first pay period of December and taxed in accordance with applicable law. Now, it's the village's interpretation initially that at year 5 you get that, at year 10 you get basically the way it's written now. Year 5 you get 500, at year 10 you get 1,000, and so on and so forth. The grievance is basically suggesting or reading it as though
individual years.
Every year after 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 you get the bonus, and at 10 the bonus changes, and so on.
10 through 15, 10 to 14 you would get another.
Yep.
And
then the grievance was specific from I think years 5 through years 20.
That's my understanding.
That's So, Bobby, I'm sorry, you were gonna.
No. That's. I was just gonna read what you had, and the other thing is that I highlighted too. That the fact is that we have to confirm that they work 520 hours. I don't know if you ever asked Denise that or not. If that was we have to have documentation. They worked 520 hours in the previous 2 years.
Okay. I will. I feel like that was looked into, but I will double check with that.
Okay.
And we'll look into that. 520. That's as in section G number 3.
Yep.
As listed.
No, G3.
Okay. G. Do you guys have any other comments on it? I mean, my reading of the contract is I disagree with the grievance. It seems to me fairly plain that at year 5 you get this, at year 10 you get this.
Yeah, it does not say 5 to 9.
Right.
10 to 14.
Right.
And so on.
Right. And it says that they're not cumulative. So
right.
Yes. And it's clearly milestone years. Yes. I mean, it's rewarding milestone years. It's to me very clear with that. I mean, just to say, I wish we could pay our officers a lot more than we do. They do an incredible job. But we also have to pay them according to what the contract
states. The contract states.
Yes. Right. And I'm pretty on board with you guys that it's
okay.
Yeah, milestone years.
Karen?
No, I agree with you.
Okay.
Most companies are like that too. We get paid
a
certain amount after so much.
All right. Bob? Kevin? Okay. So I think then we're all in agreement.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Then I will. I'll draft this letter. I'll get to the attorney, get it to you guys for final comments before we submit it back. We don't need a motion on this, but we just had to have that discussion as required.
You'll review that with labor council.
Yes. All right.
Is the next step after this a perp hearing?
It goes to an arbitration. Yeah. Yep.
I believe so.
That as to the contract, that's the next step. Yes. And I think that the cost of that is split amongst the two parties.
That's correct.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Great. Looking for a motion. I mentioned this earlier in my super long update speech. To advertise for bids for the sanitary sewer improvement project. Sealed bids are due by 2 p.m. And the bid opening is scheduled for Thursday, March 15th, 2018 at 2 p.m. at the Village Office, 24 Main Street, Hoosick Falls, New York.
Motion.
Thank you, Ben.
Second.
Second, Bobby. Ryan. Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries. Okay. Can I have the policy? I have a resolution that I want to put in front of you regarding creating a policy of posting recordings of Board of Trustee meetings. About 3 or 4 months in, I started recording meetings on my iPhone and also on my laptop, so I'd have 2 copies. So far, I've noticed that the iPhone one works better, and I can tweak the audio, so it's very well audible. Ann likes to have the audios as well. They're village records or village documents. I want to get those out there. And we did a little bit of research to find out how other people do it. And I think Brian mentioned to me there's 2 primary sites they use, YouTube and Vimeo.
Yeah.
I don't know how you pronounce it, but Vimeo. Andy's got it if you don't have it. Thank you. Bonus points for Andy.
Thank you, Andy.
My goal is to put all of these online in YouTube. And this isn't just for me. This is a policy I want to establish going forward. And in the language of this is included because we have we have video recordings that Charlie used to do back in 2014 and 2015. He stopped doing it in 2016. But I want to put those on the YouTube channel as well, so they're public documents, and that also would satisfy one particular FOIL request that's at the appeal stage.
Mayor could also just add the reason to go with YouTube is because the email, but it's only free, yes.
Yep, it's free, totally free.
The email domain that some of us are using, that's village property as well, that's included with that Google Suite and record retention.
Yep.
So it ties in with all of those documents being retained in one platform.
Yep. Do I need to read the whole thing?
You should read the
now therefore?
The resolution.
Okay. So this is a resolution establishing a policy regarding internet posting of recordings of Board of Trustees meetings. So therefore, be it resolved by the Village Board of Trustees of the Village of Hoosick Falls in regular session duly convened as follows. 1. The Village of Hoosick Falls Board of Trustees hereby establishes a policy of posting the current audio recordings of Board of Trustee meetings and also posting all available digital video and or audio recordings of prior Board of Trustee meetings on the internet through YouTube or other available social media website. The village shall identify the social media site hosting the Board of Trustee meetings recordings and also provide a direct link to such site on the homepage of the Village of Hoosick Falls website. Number 2, the Village of Hoosick Falls shall make such digital video and or audio recordings of Board of Trustees meetings available on such social media website as soon as practicable following each recorded Board of Trustees meeting. And that will encompass the 2014-2015 video recordings that I found. If I find any more from 2016 that were digitally recorded on DVD, I can put those up as well.
You gonna load those yourself?
Yes, I've already started doing a lot. It's not a hard process. It can be time consuming, but it's one of those things where you start it going and then you walk away for an hour or two and then come back and and the uploads take a while, but I just start before I go to bed and in the morning it's done. I know of a couple of firms in the past who may charge for that by the hour, but I'm not going to do that. So
no, that's watching, right?
Just saying. So, any other questions?
Yeah, what happens if your recording does not come out?
Then it just doesn't go. It just wouldn't go up because technically, if the recording doesn't work or function, it's not a village record.
So then you would let everybody know at the next board meeting, or would you post that somewhere where people would know?
As we're redesigning the webpage right now, and hoping to have that maybe even rolled out the next meeting would be cool.
Someone's got next week off.
So you have next week off. Take that.
I was giving you that. You're welcome.
Thank you. We'll have a section for meeting minutes, and we can actually embed the video. So you can actually, on the village website, see the video and click play, and it'll be there.
And we'll still have the written minutes so that just in case someone wants to foil and wanted to take that,
they won't need to foil it because it's all right there.
And but if it doesn't work that particular meeting, you still have the hard copy.
Yes.
We still have the hard copy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And that way all the stuff's out there and available for anyone who wants it, and it saves the office staff some copying and sorting and finding and sending.
Okay.
So.
And just a word of these will automatically close caption on YouTube. Sometimes they come out a little odd.
Yeah.
So just as a heads up, we should probably put a disclaimer on there of we did not do the captioning, and if it says something awful, it was probably said by Ann.
We can add that. That sounds good.
We got to up our joke game now.
That's right. Yeah, and I noticed when I was preparing one of the recordings from a foil that I just do a little bit of audio adjusting to make sure the volumes are loud enough so I don't have to hear it.
Okay.
Which you liked. Once we learned how to adjust the volume on the computer. All right. Any other discussion?
I'm getting this from both sides.
No, I'll make the motion.
We need a motion to accept the resolution. Bobby, looking for a second.
Second.
Brian, and this is a roll call vote.
Trustee Downey.
Yes.
Yes. Trustee Sprague.
Yes.
Bobby.
Yes.
Ben and Kevin. All in favor.
All right.
Hi.
Thank you. Village of Hoosick Falls is the very original YouTube name. Looking for a motion to advertise an RFQ request for qualifications for the Village of Hoosick Falls and Town of Hoosick Joint Woodsbrook Drainage Improvements Project.
Motion.
Ben, looking for a second.
Second.
Give it to Kevin. Even though I think Brian had him beat. This is for the $900,000 CDBG grants. Any further discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. This is the next step in that process. All right. We have a discussion, and I want to have our village attorney lead this concerning a possible local law to override the property tax cap, which would require a local law and setting a public hearing. And this is something that would exist as a possibility as we look to our next budget season. Andy?
In general, many municipalities, when they're doing their budgets, if there is the potential need to go over the state tax cap, you prepare the local law, introduce it. You can set the public hearing on 5 days' notice. The law does allow you to act both on the tax cap override and to adopt the budget at the same meeting. So it allows you time to work through your budget process, determine whether you're going to be under the cap or potentially over the cap. Many municipalities introduce that to be safe. If you're close, it's better to have that in place just so there's no issue regarding the municipal budget. So again, this is a standard local law that can be introduced. And again, the public hearing is just on 5 days' notice.
Andy, does it have to be done every year?
Yes.
So if it didn't come into play this year, but it may come into play next year, we would have to reintroduce it.
That's correct.
Okay.
With each budget year.
Yeah.
So just because you make it a local law doesn't mean that
Just for the 1 year.
Just for the 1 year.
It will be particular to this year.
Yeah, it's not carte blanche from this
right.
point
So we
forward.
couldn't use it for.
Right.
Okay.
And think about it, the state recalculates what the actual,
Right.
it's called the 2%
Right.
tax cap, but
Yeah.
it's not.
No, it's not 2%.
No.
It's low.
We've done the numbers on how it would affect here. I think preliminary, it's not much of an increase. It'd be at like 10 or 20,000 or something like that. I don't remember the exact number, but it's very limiting. It's not an honest 2%. It never has been. That's the joke amongst governments and municipalities, but you guys are already aware of that.
That affect my check the governor sent me the last month?
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. Yeah, I think you have to.
$138.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go over the cap, then
Is that just for the town or for the village itself?
I think it's all of it, right?
Anybody that's
Collectively,
under the tax
town,
cap.
village, and school, I believe. I think it's collectively they all have to be under the cap.
The letter says that
That's interesting.
your town has
No.
stayed under the tax cap.
Towns have been under the cap for the last 2-3 years and still collecting.
You sure?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we would have. I don't think it's all three because the school would have to come to us.
Right, I
or
believe.
But they haven't gone over.
They haven't gone over.
Right.
Or maybe it's 2 months. I don't know. There's something tied in. There's multiple.
Because you don't get school tax.
Right.
Mm.
I'll check that.
Okay.
The taxing jurisdictions that are covered.
All right.
Because the town did a local law, so
can
right there.
affect your vote, Kevin.
So maybe it's
They can affect your
if
vote.
it's like the village, because we're in the village, we get it.
That
We get the
$33
village.
for now.
School didn't. Maybe.
All right.
Is that?
School hasn't
No.
No,
They
I
had
don't
zero
think
2
it's
years
ever.
ago.
I'm trying to remember.
0% levy.
I don't think it's been over
probably
since
before
the.
Charging less tax.
Yeah.
Maybe it might be the school and then the municipality in which, so it might be village and school. There's some sort of combo platter.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So do we have a motion?
Not yet.
All right. I'm looking for a motion then to set up a public hearing. No.
You can direct me. I have to draft the local law.
Okay, that's it.
Next meeting, you introduce it and then set a public hearing.
Okay. Motion for that.
Motion.
Ben, thank you. Second. Thank you, Kevin.
Trying to get somebody else.
I don't think they want it. All right. Any further discussion on this? I think it's worth noting that.
Because there is a lot of people in this village who do not want to see that go over the 2.
Yep.
Is that all possible?
I've already heard from someone who saw it on the agenda and said, "Hey, I want to make sure."
Because I was informed years ago that's what they pay their water bill, or helps pay their water bill with.
Ah.
And so they were thinking it
$116.
was, yeah, I don't know. Somebody had something like that, but I thought it was 160. Something
All
like
right.
that.
Okay.
So, big concern for a lot of people not to, and we've done in the past to try to keep it under.
And that's always going to be the goal when we start. And hopefully everything works out that way. But
Right.
we'll be working on it.
Who's also taking some pretty severe hits this year too.
We are not in the best financial situation that we've been
right now.
Our money vault is getting low.
Yeah.
What, the one over at
the municipal garage?
You have a money vault over there.
That's
All right. So we have the motion, right?
Yes,
Okay.
I give a
Any
second.
further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We're looking at also discussion with Andy regarding the possible adoption of the town tax roll for the 1920 budget year, and this would also require a local law and a public hearing. Do you want to talk about that in the schedule and how that all works?
Right. So at the kind of late hour, now we throw this in. So we start with the fact that the village and the town have different assessment years, and different roles. The village comes out with their tentative roll in January. You've got your grievance day next week. The town has different dates. They issue their tentative roll in May, have their grievance day in May, and their final roll is finalized in July. As we know, the town is currently going through the townwide revaluation. One of the options a village has under the real property tax law is to use town values for purposes of preparing their village roll. We've been in discussion with the state, Department of Taxation and Finance, and with the county. Both of them are encouraging the village to consider using the revalue numbers that the town will be proposing to adopt in their 2018 roll, and use. That's what I learned today. They are anticipating completing their revaluation and using those updated values when they issue their tentative roll in May. And that would allow all of the town residents, which include the subset of the village residents, to grieve the revalued numbers at the town grievance day in later May of 2018. The real property tax law again allows the village to use the town assessment roll values in preparing their own roll. And because this townwide revaluation is being completed, certainly both the state and the county are encouraging the village to do that. The village, as I understand it, has not done a reassessment in many years as well.
Andy, is there a time limit on how long we can vote to accept that? Because frankly, I'm not impressed with the wildly inaccurate property assessment I got, and I've heard nothing back from them. I really would want the public to let us know if they think we should do it or not. And I know it would cost us our own money to do it. So do we have more than just a year or two? Is there a window?
There's not a window.
Okay.
The law always allows the village, and by the way, the procedure actually is, if you want to simply use the town values to prepare the village roll, that's by mere resolution of the board.
And we can do that at any time?
You can do it at any time. One of the initial concerns was, would the village need to do it before the village grievance day?
Right.
The answer to that is no.
No.
Is the state and the county encouraging the village to consider adopting such a resolution before the town grievance day this year? The answer to that is yes, they are encouraging you to do that, and here's why. I want to make it clear to those residents in the village that if you choose to grieve your reassessment, it will be both for purposes of town and village values.
So it's linked to it at that point.
It would be linked at that point.
Okay.
Your school taxes
Right.
will be based on those values.
And you'll see that this year in September.
You will see that the school tax bills coming out in July will be based on the town's
New, yeah, they're the
New
first
roll.
one to have the changes.
Yeah.
And then the town gets a second, we get third with just the schedule of how it worked out.
Yeah.
The assessment roll is set July.
Set July 1. Bills come out due in the fall.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's what they're encouraging. Now, Brian, you don't need to act tonight. The way I read the law, you don't have to act before May. What will result, though, is people in the village will have different assessed values for the town roll as opposed to the village roll. That can lead to some confusion, okay? But you still have the right to do that.
And if we chose to go to get a new roll, can we adopt the towns at any time, or would we have to do that, what they did, all the documentation, or
If
retrieve all the data for the village?
Quite frankly, if the village board is inclined, and this is not the term under the law, but to piggyback on the town roll, you can do that at any time.
Okay.
Yeah. You can.
I'm just saying, we don't have to go out and retrieve all the data for village residents like the town just did for all of them.
You do not have to do that, and that's why the real property tax law says for villages, and different rules for villages that straddle the municipal boundary, but here you can use the assessed values in the town roll for purposes of your roll.
As the same.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
That's what it says, that you don't have to pay to go through it, but
Right.
I also do, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, everything you said, but again, I think this one has been a very emotional issue for people overall. And I don't know if I'd speak for the rest of us, but I would want to be on public hearing even past that, hear from people directly of what do you want us to do when they see their numbers. Because people in the village are okay with having that different and they're really upset about or whatever the case, I think it's important to hear from village residents and we should.
If you go to the town's website, Gar put up a very nice 9-minute video.
No video that's 9 minutes long is nice, Kevin.
Come
A video
on,
that can be
Brian, come
said
on.
in 60
Well,
seconds.
you really need to look
I
at
watched
it.
it.
We all watched it. I was going to mention putting it on our Facebook page.
Timeline
Would that be all right?
In a world of
All right.
Facebook and Twitter where we read headlines, that video is
My
ineffective.
attention span is a little bit longer than
You have to bring it to people's attention spans and package it in a way
Yeah.
they understand. So.
Everybody will have their noses by your next meeting.
Correct. I think so. That's the plan.
Not
Yeah.
at first.
So
you'll have everything.
They said I've got a
so we
mansion,
can
so
we can set
I don't have mine yet either.
Yeah, I haven't received mine.
So I guess we're looking for a motion to have you draft a local law instead of no.
What I would suggest the board consider is get further information from GAR. If you're seeking that, get that. I would put this back on your agenda for your March meeting for further discussion. This is something that the village board wants to entertain. You have time, even if you were inclined to say, we've looked further, we think this is appropriate, we like the consistency between the town and the village assessed values. You could then even draft a resolution for your April meeting, which would allow people time to grieve at in the May grievance day.
grieve as in not just grieve, but
You did it with one assessor.
Alex, you said March 1st.
Well,
We said March 1st on our ballot.
Well, Tony's doing that.
Well, I'm going to go one step
We'll see.
further. The real property tax law allows the village two options. One is you have your own assessor, you have your own roll. You're simply using the assessed values from the town roll. The other option is you do not have an assessor. You simply use the town assessor and you're completely out of that business, if I can use that phrase. I think what's being proposed is you maintain your assessment office, you have your village roll, but you're going to be looking to the town roll for assessed values. But
So business as usual, we're using is their roll.
You got it. Business as usual, but you'd be using the values in there. You'd still issue your own roll.
Right.
You'd still have your own village grievance day.
Right.
But you would be basing that on the town.
The information.
I think we spend a lot of money on as
No,
town people.
Yeah.
I pay town tax too.
Yeah, I know. Me too.
I think we
So
all
I
do.
said
Hopefully
yes.
we all do.
So I mean, I said,
Otherwise, we got some
actually,
issues.
Tony actually did that for me. My village was a lot higher than my town. So when I grieved last year, he actually put the numbers together, pretty much.
But I think if a lot of people, and it comes up there, I think it's really important though to hear from.
I think the area is
people
going
in
to go the
general.
other way because usually he thought it was my village would be a lot lower than my town, but no, I paid a lot more.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, I was a flip on the
So
other
we
side.
don't do anything on
I
this
think
right
it's
now.
all the same.
No.
Just bring it up at the next meeting.
Okay. So do
All
we?
right. So we don't need to do anything. It'll be on the agenda for
No,
next meeting.
Thanks for explaining that, Andy.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you for looking into that. We have some water bill issues. What are the water bill issues?
This was discussed before the board before. This is from Mr. Ortega's up on
Yep.
Church Street.
I talked to the mayor about it.
He does not want to pay the bonds
On the property
on
that
the
he
property
bought.
he bought to turn into a
The thing
garage.
is, there is no water. There's no water into that. We have to disconnect it.
Mhm.
Where you gotta disconnect it is the right of way where the road goes
Right,
up.
going down to
Oh,
the,
yeah.
yes.
I talked to Mr. Allen about this, and I said it's something that needs to be done in the spring. This is not the
Yeah,
right
it's a
time of year
seasonal
to be
thing.
playing around
No.
in that area. And I talked to Mr. Whitetakers. He said, "Would you talk to the mayor about this?" So I went to the mayor. It's like, there's no water. He's not having anything flush into the sewer and stuff. So I brought this up to him. It's up to you guys what you want to do, but I'm not going to have that line disconnected totally into springtime because it's not a good situation where we got to.
Right, but there's no water going into that
No,
that
it's all
building, so it
disconnected,
doesn't.
It's shut off with a different way and stuff. Yeah, there's nothing going on there. It's an empty building.
That makes.
To be clear,
Makes sense to
so
me.
part of the issue that, because we had talked about when he was here, is that the bond exists until it's capped, but there's a village right away, which technically we're the problem where he can't cap it because it's on our property.
Right.
Well,
so kind of. Just
well,
to,
we could do it, but it's not conducive to doing this time of year.
Right.
Right.
One side, I'm agreeing. It's not ideal. We can't do it right now. So is the question to not for him to? I have no problem with that.
And he's done everything that he can do,
Yeah.
possibly do right now.
We help.
Yeah.
And he's taking care of an eyesore that's been sitting there, and if we
Oh,
can help him out, by all means.
He turns it into a garage.
Yep.
I mean, I have no
It's
problem
his
with
property.
that. Yeah.
So I guess we're looking
Still
for a
has-
motion to lift or to
void
the water and sewer bonds
For
for
whatever
this
the number of
specific
parcel-
property,
whatever
whichever
parcel
parcel
that
this
is.
is.
233.
233. Thank you.
Motion.
Ben.
Second,
Brian. Any further discussion on
Does
this?
how far back are we voiding it? So when he bought it at auction?
Just December
Or just
bill.
December bill? Okay.
That's fine.
December.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
All right, the second.
And
Like the
wait, we
vote.
have to vote on it. And
Yeah.
when is the next water bill? Would it be done by the
April.
time the next water bill is done? Just in case.
It's in April. I'm
Ju-
not going to say we're going to dig in April.
Let's
but
just
I
in
had no idea
case
what the water was gonna be.
make sure it's voided for the December one and the April one.
In the next billing period.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, the
Another
next one I have, it was a meter issue, 162 Church Street. Denise did an average from the first meter that was put in to the second meter that was put in, difference of information between departments. And she's calculated that there should be a credit for property at 162 Church Street, water in the amount of $190.79 and $196.48 for the sewer.
So what was the issue? I don't understand.
Is this a multifamily house?
It's a two-family, but the only information we had here was an April 16 meter. The water department we had a newer meter date in our system than the information we had on the water chart. So Jim and Denise got together and the install date was incorrect, so it'd be adjusted to 36,537 gallons instead of originally 66,537.
And that's where the average
this is
is.
the credit.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Meter
would have had a
issue.
heart attack if I got that.
Yeah, I would have too. My goodness.
Yeah, he did.
Sorry.
What resident? What's the address?
162
So looking for a motion to
credit the water in 190.79 and the sewer 196.48.
Motion.
Brian, Karen, second. Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any other ones, or is that it?
That's it.
All right. Before I forget, media, I have a couple copies of that thing I read. So if you want that for whatever you're reporting on, feel free. And at that point, I'm looking for a motion to go into executive session for an update on pending or possible litigation with no additional business afterwards.
Motion.
Ben? Second, Karen. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This portion of the meeting ends at 8:03.
He's cooler.
Thank you.
Did I sign the last one?
Yep.
You've been here before.
Good.
What does it say the...
What do you need?
13?
Yep. What do you need?
I just want to know if he has papers here to sign.
I got it.
Related to Chief Act?
No.
No,
that one's
I
not.
apologize.
That's alright.
Congrats again.
Thank you.
I don't want to say I had it.
Brian, did you have? He does. Do you have extra copy? Do you have the extra copy of this? Did that get passed around over there too?
We looked at it.
All right.
Let me get a hold of you and we'll figure out when we need it.
Yeah, I'm giving out to the meeting.
It's out at 6. It's not even in the actual order.
Sure does. Sure does. Oh, thank you.
They're building like 48 brand new lanes inside of it right now.
Worst signature ever. No, it shouldn't be long.
Nice.
Tell Zena to step it up.
Sienna's calling.
No, I mean step